Let me
No,
know.
ma'am.
Is the screen visible? It's not visible. Okay. This call is now being recorded. Okay, I will stop the presentation and again I will go to the presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Now
See,
it's
because of
visible.
this
Yeah.
latecomers.
Ma'am, now is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Network is little slow, so it will take some time. Okay. So what can you see here? One of you just read it.
Color blindness.
Color blindness.
Can you see this signal? Yeah. Now
Yes,
can you
ma'am.
see this
Yes, ma'am.
picture or signal? Yeah. Okay. See what is color blindness. Now you can understand this is one of the phenomena or the expression related to sex linked inheritance. It is inherited from parents to the offsprings, and this is one of the examples. Sex linked because this is related to the sex of the child, from parents to the offsprings. When it is inherited, then which chromosome it is related to. Now we will begin with the in the sex linked inheritance also with the X linked first. X linked are also called as sex linked inheritance. This is also called as sex linked inheritance, and this is related to the X chromosome. So it is called as X linked inheritance, also known as sex linked inheritance. So color blindness, where there are in the signal, you know that three colors as red, yellow, and green. The normal person can distinguish these three colors, but when the color blind person is there, he or she cannot differentiate, can't distinguish these three colors as red, yellow, and green, but all look little bit similar. So this is the difference. And this gene responsible for the expression of this is present on X chromosome, and that also in the recessive form. If the gene is in the recessive form, then only this phenomenon is seen, expressed. What happens here? Retina of the eye in man contains the cells sensitive to two colors, that is red and green. This phenotypic trait is genetically controlled by alleles located on X chromosome. And that's why this is called as sex linked recessive disorder. Why recessive? If the gene is present on the homozygous dominant, that means the gene is normal. But when it is either heterozygous, means one is dominant and the other is recessive, that person is normal and that too female but carrier. The female is carrying the gene, but as the normal gene is dominant over the recessive gene, this phenomena is not expressed. Normal person, he or she behaves as. But when it is in the homozygous recessive form, then only this phenomenon is observed, that is color blindness. That's why this is called as recessive disorder. What happens now? See here, this is also one of the examples of crisscross inheritance. What does it mean? Crisscross inheritance means this gene is inherited from colorblind father through daughter to the grandson, leaving one generation. When the daughter is there, she is just carrying the gene, but she's not the sufferer, she's not the color blind, she's only the carrier. So the gene is transmitted from grandfather to the grandson through his carrier daughter, and this phenomenon is called as crisscross inheritance. In the picture also you can see this father is color blind and the mother, woman, is unaffected, that means normal. So out of the offsprings, four offsprings which are produced, both the sons are normal, but both the daughters are carriers. Carriers means they are just carrying the genes, but not expressed. This gene is not expressed. Only the gene is carried by the daughter. Okay, but when this carrier daughter marries with the normal person, that is the man, then in that case, out of four, one son is normal, one is affected, one daughter is normal, and the other one is carrier. So this is what happens in the second generation. So when a woman with normal vision marries a colorblind man, all the sons and daughters are normal, but all daughters are carrier. Just I showed you in the picture. But if a carrier, in the second example, immediately, that's same carrier woman, if marries a man with normal vision, all daughters, all the daughters and half of the sons have normal vision, and another half of the sons are colorblind. See, sons are not carrier, but colorblind only. See, this is what it is shown. So, X-linked inheritance, when it is in the recessive form, yeah, it may happen, children. Just be with me, though the voice is cracking. I'm trying, my network shown is full, but maybe low. So it is slow. So it may happen. So what is that? Normal males, 100% normal males. See, this is male, which is normal, shown by the yellow color. Okay, this is yellow colored female, that means normal. Whereas color blind, this is shown by blue color, where one daughter, both the daughters are carrier. So females 100% carrier and males 100% normal. But in the next generation, when the female is carrier and the carrier female when marries with a normal man, then there is possibility of everyone as 25%. That means normal male 25%, normal female 25%, carrier female 25%, and colorblind male 25%. So these are the possibilities. So colorblind trait is inherited from a male parent to his grandsons through carrier daughter. And that's why this colorblindness example is the example of crisscross pattern of inheritance. This is shown in this chart form. That is the same example. Father when colorblind, mother normal. Out of four offsprings, sons both normal, whereas both daughters colorblind. Then in the second generation also the same thing happens as I explained. So the second example of X-linked inheritance or sex-linked inheritance is hemophilia. Now what does it mean? Hemophilia is of two types. Hemophilia A, hemophilia B, because of the deficiency caused in the clotting factor. There are different clotting factors. Now, when there is a deficiency or the clotting factor 8 is observed, which is not able to clot the blood properly, when there is a deficiency in the clotting factor 8, then hemophilia A is observed. When there is deficiency in the clotting factor 9, the hemophilia B is observed. This hemophilia disease is also called as bleeder's disease. You know why? You know, when there is any harm or injury to the body or the skin, what happens? Blood oozes out, but immediately within few minutes, you know that there is clotting of the blood. A mesh is formed on that particular part, which doesn't allow the blood to come out. The network is formed, the blood cells, they clot in each other, and it avoids the loss of blood from the body. But if that clotting factor is not working, functioning properly, then there is loss of blood from the body, and that loss, because of that, this is called as bleeder's disease. Lot of blood is lost from the body, and this is considered to be sex-linked recessive disorder. Again, the similar type of example. Recessive means if this gene is in the recessive condition, then only it is expressed. If it is in the dominant condition, it is not expressed. And you know that in case of females, there are two X chromosomes, and that's why females are considered to be carriers, but they generally are not sufferers. Very rarely they are sufferers, when only in case both the genes are showing, both the alleles, these both X chromosomes, they are carrying the gene which is in the recessive form. Then only there is chance of uh, this hemophilia in case of females. That's why females are generally carriers but not the sufferers, but males are generally always directly sufferers, never carrier, because males are having only one X chromosome. And if that chromosome shows the presence of the recessive gene, then that gene is expressed, and that's why males are generally sufferers. So possibility and chances of such diseases are more in males than females. See, one more type of hemophilia is there. That is because of the clotting factor 11, but that is called as hemophilia C. And this is not the sex-linked inheritance, but it is autosomal recessive disorder. So I will not stress on this C type of hemophilia. You have to remember only A and B. Though you just remember hemophilia as bleeders, this is because of the recessive gene present in the X chromosome. That is what you have to remember. So hemophilia A and B impairs body's ability to control clotting of blood. A single protein that is a part of this cascade of the reactions involved in the clotting of blood is affected. That means that particular protein which is responsible for the formation of that blood group, that is the formation of that clotting factor which is responsible for the clotting of the blood, if it is defective, there is a deficiency of that clotting factor, then there will not be clotting of the blood. And so if there is no clotting of blood, then obviously what will happen, the blood will flow out of the body, loss of the blood from the body will take place, which may lead to even sometimes in the severe cases to the death of the person. So hemophilia is more likely to occur in males than in female, as I told you the same similar type of example, that because if it is present only in the recessive form, this disease is observed. And in case of males, only one X chromosome is present, and this gene is present only on X chromosome. So males are sufferers than females. So this is what shown. This is because females have two X chromosomes while males have only one X chromosome, and so the defective gene is present on X will certainly express in males who carries it. That's it. So what is the condition, in which condition it is expressed and which condition it is not expressed? In case of females, when both the X chromosomes, if they are carrying the recessive gene, then only there are chances of, for women, for that particular female, to have this disease, that is hemophilia. Then what might be the reason for this? Hemophilia is caused by recessive allele on the X chromosome. The chance of a female having defective copies of the gene is very rare, and that's why females are carriers generally, and they are mostly asymptomatic carriers of this disorder. There are no such symptoms seen. They are just carriers. So how it is passed, again the same similar example just we discussed right now before this, that is like color blindness. This affected father, which is carrying the gene in the recessive condition, then it is transmitted to the daughter who works as carrier, and then from this carrier daughter it is passed to her son. That means this gene is crisscrossed. That means from grandfather via carrier daughter it is transmitted to the grandson, and these are the 50% chances. So one example you might be knowing that the family pedigree of Queen Victoria shows the number of hemophilic descendants as she was a carrier for the disease. No, that Queen Victoria passed hemophilia on some of her descendants. Hemophilia is different than the sickle cell anemia. Understand, hemophilia, in the sickle cell anemia, what happens? The blood cells change their shape to sickle shape, and that's why they clot in the blood vessels and may lead to the death in a very early stage. Here the difference is that here the clotting factor is not functioning. That's why there is loss of blood from the body, and then it may result to the death of the person. So in case of sickle cell anemia, it's sure that the person becomes hemophilic male, especially the sickle cell male child, if we, or the female, whatever, if it is, as you know, the similar type of examples, but the reason behind sickle cell anemia is different than the hemophilia. In case of sickle cell anemia, the blood cells change their shape, and that's why they clog the blood vessels, and it may lead to anemic condition and then death of the person. But in case of hemophilia, if there is injury to the body and loss of the body from the body, then and then only, if in the both recessive condition in case of males and in case of female also, if both in the recessive condition, that means if it is in the recessive condition in the female, and in case of males only one X chromosome, though it is in the recessive condition, then only this hemophilia is or observed. So this is example shown, that is unaffected mother and affected father, which the possibility is given, that is shown affected son, how many, and affected daughters, where how many affected daughters, that means only carriers. Then in case of another example, carrier mother and affected father, in that case what are the chances? These are all shown, 25% each one, like last example. So here again, these are the chances, and the expressions were shown in this picture. When the father has hemophilia and the mother is unaffected, in that case, what are the chances? This is these are all are shown in different colors. None of the sons will have hemophilia. All the daughters will carry the hemophilia gene, just like the previous example. Here also, when mother carries the hemophilia, but not the affected one, but the gene is unaffected, that means just carrier, and the father is normal, then what happens? What are the chances? 50% chance at each birth that son will have hemophilia. So there is a 50% chance at each birth that a daughter will carry the hemophilia gene. So this you have to remember. Now you can always remember, see, this is very important slide. You can remember that H represents, capital H represents normal and small h represents the hemophilic gene. Okay, then what are the genotypes in case of female? Here, first is what? Normal female with both the H genes. H is representing hemophilia. That's why when both in capital, that means dominant form. That means this female is normal. But when one is capital, one is small, that means only one X chromosome is carrying the recessive form of gene. So this female is carrier, but living her life as normal. And when both the X chromosomes are showing the presence of homozygous recessive condition, that means here both the X chromosomes are carrying the recessive form of gene, then this female is sufferer. But in case of males, as only one X chromosome is present, if it is in the dominant condition, then it is normal male. And if it is recessive form, that is the sufferer. There is no such carrier male. In case of males, in case of hemophilia, there is no such carrier. In case of males, only females being two X chromosomes. These are just carriers. So this is very important, you always remember. These are just shown in the form of Punnett square. The same example is shown in the form of Punnett square. How it is shown? These are the females represented vertically and the male represented horizontally. This is the normal male and this is the carrier female. In this way it is shown. So whatever are the chances that you can see here, that carrier female, affected male, equal chance of affected male and female progeny. So this is what you need to remember in this way. Here also how it is shown in the form of pedigree chart, or you can say Punnett square. Here the male is sufferer and female is normal. Here in this case female is sufferer. That means both the genes are with in the recessive form condition. So this female is sufferer and the male is also sufferer. See, then how many chances of the normal here? No chance of being any of the child as normal. Both male and females are affected. That means all the progenies are affected when both mother and father, they are the sufferers. So these all four conditions are shown in this chart, in this case. Now we have taken few examples of X-linked inheritance. Now we'll talk about the Y-linked inheritance. Y-linked inheritance is also called as polyandric inheritance. And that means the genes that control Y-linked characters of Y chromosomes. Now it is very easy to remember that Y chromosome is present only in males. So that's why whatever the inheritance, that means the characters are expressed, are passed from father to his son only. And no such carrier daughter or such thing is observed, as females are having only X chromosome. So where are these genes present? On the non-homologous part of Y chromosome. You know, we have learned the structure. That's why I took that part first. That is the structure of X chromosome and Y chromosome. When you study and keep that picture of X and Y chromosome in front of you, you know that X chromosome with the longer arms and the Y chromosome is shorter, and the part which is morphologically similar, that is considered to be homologous part in both X and Y. Whereas the part which is not morphologically similar, that part is considered to be non-homologous part. So this Y-linked inheritance is related to the non-homologous part, which is not similar to that of the X chromosome. So obviously it will be passed from father to son only. So Y-linked disorders are caused by mutations on the chromosome. Because males inherit Y chromosomes from their fathers. So whatever gene is there in non-homologous part of the Y chromosome, that is obviously transmitted to his son only via that particular, So female offsprings of affected fathers are never affected. Remember, though the progeny is female child, that offspring, female offspring, will not show any such character. It will not get affected because it shows only X chromosome and not Y chromosome. So because females inherit only X chromosome from their father and never Y chromosome, this is not seen in females. So what is the importance of this gene? That it develops male characteristics in humans. What is that? What do you know about this Y-linked inheritance? Testis determining factor, also known as sex determining region, that is Y protein, is a DNA binding protein encoded by the SRY gene. That means sex determining region, and that is called as Y region or Y protein, that is responsible for the initiation of male sex determination in humans. So this region is having very importance. Either this is called as TDF, ST is determining factor, or this is also known as SRY, that means sex determining region, that is Y. So what are these inheritances? Hypertrichosis, webbing of toes, and porcupine man. These are few, very few. That part is also very small, so very few Y-linked characters are seen. Some of these are the examples. Hypertrichosis means excessive growth of hair on the pin of the ear. That is called as hypertrichosis. Whereas porcupine man means straight and stiff hair are present on the body. So that is also only Y-related, Y-linked inheritance, seen only in males. So we'll see the pictures. So this is what you can see, the tuft of hair on the pin of ear in case of males only. And this indicates H, that is what, Y chromosome on hairy ears. So this gene is present on Y chromosome only. Then this is what called as webbing of toes. That is also related to Y chromosome, Y-linked inheritance. And this is what porcupine man. That means this is also known as ichthyosis. So this is also Y-linked character in human beings. So this is also called as Blandrick inheritance. Y chromosome is small and doesn't contain numerous genes, as I told just now. And Y-linked disease or disorders are very rare because this part is very small. Non-homologous part on Y chromosome is very small, and Y chromosome is also very small. So it occurs between fathers and his sons. Now we'll come to the next part, that is the autosomal inheritance. Now we discussed sex related, that means the genes which are present on the sex chromosomes, that means whether it is X chromosome or Y chromosome. Now we discuss some of the examples of autosomal inheritance. How from the autosomes this inherited, that character is inherited. That means it is not related to the sex, whether it is male or a female, whether it is boy or a girl, that doesn't matter. That character is expressed. Now, the best example of this is widow's peak. You know, in this picture, you can see that V-shaped structure, the V form is seen on the forehead. That is, the hairline starts from that particular point, giving the V-shaped structure on the forehead of that hair, right? So this is called as widow's peak. A small peak-like structure, that means the hairline start from the middle of that forehead part. So this is called as widow's peak. Whereas this is in this another picture, there is no such widow's peak, right? That is the normal. When this character is expressed, this is the example of dominant trait. Only when that both the genes are in homozygous dominant form, both the alleles are in the dominant homozygous dominant condition or heterozygous condition, then only this character as widow's peak is observed. And when this is in the homozygous recessive condition, that particular gene, the alleles, both in the homozygous recessive form, then no such phenotypic expression as widow's peak is observed. That is called as no widow's peak or normal. No such hairline starts from the middle of the forehead here. It doesn't give any V-shaped structure or W-shaped structure. So that's why this is not seen in the homozygous recessive condition. And this is shown in the form of pedigree. Now, first generation, one example I'll just explain here. This is heterozygous condition and this is homozygous recessive. That means female is with the normal, no widow's peak, but the male is with the widow's peak. Though the heterozygous nature, one is dominant over the other, that widow's peak is observed. Okay, so out of 4 offsprings, female is showing widow's peak, the male is not showing. Here again the male is not showing, the male is showing. See, then you can understand here, out of this, square is represented by male and the sphere, that oval shaped structure, is represented by the female. So male is represented by the square and the female is represented by this oval shaped structure. You can understand here, no such sex related factor is there. Means whether it is male or female, the character is expressed. So it is not related to the sex of the child. In the another case also you can see here, the female is heterozygous. So the female is showing thus this character as widow's peak. Male is normal. So out of two offsprings, both are females. One is showing the character, the other is normal. So it is not related to the sex of the child. And when it is expressed, only when it is in the homozygous dominant condition or heterozygous condition, then this phenomena, that is autosomal dominant trait, that is widow's peak, is observed. In the homozygous recessive condition, it is not observed. Now, another example of autosome, but in the recessive condition, we will see is the attached earlobe or free earlobe. When you observe your earlobes, if directly they get attached here, then that is called as attached earlobe. And when this part is free, that earlobe is free, this is called as free earlobe. Okay. When this attached earlobe is observed, again, in case of attached earlobes, when it is homozygous dominant or heterozygous condition, then exactly opposite condition. This is the recessive form. Yeah. Now we discussed in case of widow's peak, when it is homozygous dominant or heterozygous condition, this is expressed. But attached earlobe is expressed only when in both the genes. That means it is in the homozygous recessive condition, then only attached earlobe condition is observed. Otherwise, in homozygous dominant and heterozygous condition, the earlobes are free. So in first generation, you can see male, which is heterozygous, female also heterozygous, and out of four offsprings, these two males are with the attached earlobes, which are showing homozygous recessive condition, and this female is either with the homozygous dominant or heterozygous condition. This is with the free earlobe. And this male also is with the free earlobe. That means you can come to know that this is the example which is not related to the sex of the child. That means it is autosomal, and when it is expressed, attached earlobe is expressed only when it is in the homozygous recessive form. And if it is homozygous dominant or heterozygous condition, it is observed as free earlobe. So this is what another example of autosomal inheritance. One example we discussed, that is about the dominant, and this it attached earlobe as recessive. So both the examples we have discussed. Now we will talk about the few other examples, that is phenylketonuria. That is a very rare condition in which a baby is born and does not have the ability to break down the amino acid called phenylalanine. That is autosomal recessive trait. This is also autosomal recessive trait. That means it is not related. This gene is not present on any of the sex chromosome. It is present on the autosome, and when it is observed, only when it is in the homozygous recessive condition. What is that exactly? Phenylketonuria, that doesn't really affect you. You can live as long as any other person who doesn't have it. Means normal person. He can live the life as a normal person. Only the thing is what? This is the genetic disorder caused by a mutation in the gene, which is called as PAH gene, located on chromosome number 12. So first 22 are autosomes, and 23rd only is considered to be the sex chromosome. And chromosome number 12, on there, that this gene called as PAH, what it represents? Phenylalanine hydroxylase. That PAH represents P for phenyl, A alanine, H hydroxylase. This is the enzyme that is responsible for the production of the enzyme called as phenylalanine hydroxylase. Now, what is the role of this enzyme? This is a very rare condition in which a baby is born and does not have the ability to break down the amino acid called phenylalanine, which is the autosomal recessive trait. As you just remember, this is autosomal recessive trait. So PKU, phenylketonuria, it is called as, doesn't really affect you, but it is the, as I told you just now, how, what is this metabolism takes place. Just see here, in the normal person without PKU, what happens? This phenylalanine, that hydroxylase enzyme is produced, which produces tyrosine. But when in the person having PKU, this phenylalanine, that cannot produce this PAH, that means phenylalanine hydroxylase enzyme, and because of which tyrosine is not produced. But what is done? That is phenyl pyruvate is produced, and that build up phenylalanine to toxic levels. So tyrosine is not produced. What is the role of this enzyme, phenylalanine hydroxylase enzyme? That is responsible for the formation of tyrosine. But instead, what happens then? That hydroxylase enzyme, PAH, is only not produced, then tyrosine is not produced, and that is accumulated. So that's why this phenylalanine is accumulated, and it goes to excess of that, goes to the urine, and that's why this is called as, it goes to the urine, that is called as phenylketonuria. That is the very rare disease, and when it is observed, this is also autosomal, that is chromosome number 12, on that this gene is present, and that is called as PKH enzyme, which is not produced because of that defective gene present on chromosome number 12, and when it is observed, if it is in the homozygous recessive form, that is then only this is observed. So as the level of phenylalanine are increased over there, goes to urine, and that's why this is called as phenylketonuria. So the next one more example.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, what are the symptoms that one will identify that they have this disease?
Ha. At the end, we will discuss this symptoms. Symptoms as such, as I told you, this person behaves as a normal life. But when it goes exceeds, the person who is having this phenylketonuria disease, what happens to that person? That symptoms as such are not observed, but the urine which it contains excess of that ketone, the high toxic levels in the urine are observed, because that phenylalanine, as it is not producing the tyrosine, that hydroxylase enzyme is, which is responsible for the production of tyrosine, which is not produced, and then it becomes toxic, and that toxic levels are increased in the urine, and it is passed out, thrown out of the body, it is increased. So that person in the when it is in the baby, that baby, that spots of the urine on the cloth, they are shown as black spots. The person, baby, carrying this homozygous recessive condition, that is phenylketonuria, the toxicity is increased because of the accumulation of this phenylalanine in, it goes to the excess, when it exceeds, it goes to the urine, and then the urine spots when on the cloth are there, that gives black spots. That is one of the symptoms you can recognize, but the person can live the normal life. Now,
Okay.
second, now cystic fibrosis. Again, this
Excuse me,
is
ma'am.
also, yes.
Ma'am, your voice is breaking.
Yeah, we, I can't help actually. Let us see what happens. Okay, the cystic fibrosis, the another example, autosomal recessive, CF, that is called as, it is the result of mutations affecting a gene that influences salt and water movement across epithelial cell membrane. And where is this gene present? That is present on the long arm of chromosome 7. See, all these are autosomal. And when they are expressed only in the homozygous recessive condition if they are seen. So this genetic defect causes increased sodium and chloride content in sweat and increased resorption of sodium and water from respiratory epithelium. The extracellular chloride causes the mucus that coats certain cells to become more viscous and sticky. So it affects such parts, cells, like wherever the parts like respiratory system, like lungs, then nodes, pancreas, then intestinal, that gastrointestinal tract. So such areas, parts get affected. So the mucus builds up in the organs such as lungs, pancreas, gastrointestinal tract, etc., leads to further complications and may lead to death also by the age of 5 if untreated. You can see the normal and the affected. In case of cystic fibrosis, the mucus is increased and it accumulates all these cavities, body cavities. So such organs get affected. The lungs as respiratory organ, then pancreas, gastrointestinal tract. So such organs get affected, and if it is not treated, then it may lead to death at the age of 5. So this is by lack of transport protein, which allows chloride ions to move across plasma membrane. Normally, water will pass through the plasma membrane after the chloride ions pass. And this is what you can see, the chromosome number 7, which is responsible for this cystic fibrosis. So the gene is present on chromosome number 7. And when it is expressed, the cystic fibrosis, only in the recessive condition, homozygous recessive form, if it is observed, and that is also considered to be autosomal. As the number 7 is also, it is autosomal. So affected person generally have frequent infections, respiratory infections. So sinus gets affected. So sinusitis, then lungs become that thick, sticky mucus builds up. So bacterial infections is very easily observed. So this is why then skin also, sweat glands produce salty sweat. The liver also is get blocked because of such mucus secretion. Then pancreas also gets blocked. So pancreatic duct means wherever the ducts or whatever such areas are present, then everywhere there the mucus is stored, and that's why it blocks that particular area, and that's why this is why called as cystic fibrosis. This is the normal airway. You can see the airway, why this is thin mucus here, you can see, whereas the affected person, the mucus layer is very thick here, you can see in cystic fibrosis. The affected person who is suffering from cystic fibrosis, this you can see the layer of mucus is very thick, and whereas in the normal person, the airways, that wall is very thin, so that the proper channel is there to for the windpipe or the respiratory tract, or you can say for the digestive tract or the gastric tract, intestinal tract. And if the secretion is increased in the cystic form, it forms mucus, and the mucus then accumulate on the walls of these vessels, and very easily bacterial infection is seen. It grow over there, and it may cause very severe attack. Now we will talk about few other chromosomal aberrations or disorders. That is thalassemia. One of this is thalassemia. It is anemic condition. Red blood cells cannot carry enough oxygen. That is the deficiency of iron, and that also is caused by recessive gene. Synthesis of abnormal hemoglobin in red blood cells, and that is passed down to by parents who carry thalassemia genes in their cells. How it is done? What are the symptoms? The person appear healthy at birth, but after 2 years become pale, lifeless, fuzzy body, poor appetite. Appetite becomes poor. Then it grow slowly, means the growth is very slow, then it develops jaundice very early, and the treatment is blood transfusion or bone marrow transfusion, that is the transplant, bone marrow transplant. These are the treatments for this. Now what happens here, this is an autosomal recessive blood disorder. It's caused by the excessive destruction of red blood cells due to the formation of abnormal hemoglobin molecule. Hemoglobin, you know, that which is responsible uh, for carrying oxygen. You know, everyone, blood cells which carry hemoglobin, which is having the ability to, or affinity with the oxygen. So it carries oxygen, which is very important. And if the blood cells, that means that these blood cells which are carrying such hemoglobin molecules, due to the formation of some hemoglobin molecules, then oxygen carrying capacity is reduced. So because of a defect through a genetic mutation or deletion. Now deletion and all, what is mutation, that part I will explain in the next part, because this is a little bit different than the normal. Uh, okay, so this is because of the mutation, chromosomal mutation it is called. Mutation is nothing but the sudden change in the genetic makeup of the organism, and it is transmitted. That means from parents to the offsprings. That is what called as mutation. I'll just discuss this thalassemia and then I will stop. So normally hemoglobin is composed of four polypeptide chains, two alpha and two beta chains, arranged into a heterotetramer. Tetra is four. There, that is chain. So two alpha and two beta chains are present in the normal hemoglobin. When the person with this thalassemia patient have defect in either alpha globin chain or beta globin chain, and that causes the production of abnormal hemoglobin molecule, and that results into anemia. So thalassemia are of two types again, in which whichever the chain, whether it is alpha or beta, accordingly on which chain of the hemoglobin, the sickle cell anemia is caused due to a specific change in the beta chain or alpha chain. Accordingly, these are known as alpha thalassemia and beta thalassemia. This is also known as Cooley's anemia. Based on the chain of hemoglobin molecule, thalassemia is classified as alpha thalassemia or beta thalassemia. Alpha thalassemia, there are two genes, HbA1 and HbA2. And in this, alpha globin chain is affected. And what happens then? Genes present, that genes, those two genes are located on chromosome number 16 of each parent. And alpha thalassemia is observed due to mutation or deletion of one or more of the four alpha gene alleles. Out of four means two parents then are considered, two alpha chains of one parent, two alpha chains of another one. So two alpha and two beta are present. So out of that, though one of it is having showing any effect, the more genes affected, the less alpha globin molecules are produced. Means the gene which is responsible for the production of alpha globin molecule, if it is affected, if more genes are affected, then more less it will be showing the effect. That means alpha globin molecules produced are very less. So alpha thalassemia is due to impaired production of 1, 2, 3 or 4 alpha globin chains, leading to a relative excess of beta globin chain. When alpha content is lowered, beta content will be increased. So excess of beta globin will be formed if alpha is affected. The same condition, similar condition is seen in case of beta thalassemia. Here what happens, in this production of beta globin chain is affected, which is controlled by a single gene, that is also known as Cooley's anemia, and that is called as HBB. HB represents hemoglobin, B is for the beta, so that's why this gene is called as HBB. In case of HbA1 and A2, that means two genes, alpha For alpha, 2 genes. Here for beta, only 1 gene. So where is this located? It is located on chromosome 11 of each parent, and that is located, alpha is located on chromosome. Do you remember 60? Just now I told. So beta thalassemia occurs due to the mutation of one or both alleles, and beta thalassemia is due to impaired production of beta globin chain, leading to a relative excess of alpha globin chains. And the most common type of thalassemia, that is beta thalassemia. So that's why this is what I say. So these are some other few more disorders which I will not explain right now. I will stop here because it takes more time. And if you need, we will discuss and revise it